Before we get into our patented just the facts, Larry, I do want to, since we've been talking about Brock Purdy, just kind of go over the resume of this year. Okay, I just want to talk about the matchups that he's been in and what he's done. If we were to make an argument about who this guy is in the hierarchy and the pecking order, which is all the shows that are unlike ours, that's like the only thing they want to talk about. We want to actually talk football and what happened in a game. We don't want to come up with mythical, always moving lists. That's just, it's lazy to me. But I'll play along just for a minute because I think we got an argument that is just, the guy's a top 10 quarterback in football right now. I don't care what propagandist told you that he threw all those training camp interceptions. It doesn't matter because here's who he is. In week 1, Larry, he outduels Kenny Pickett, who was taken in the first round of the same draft where Brock obviously was the last pick. In week 2, I wouldn't say that he outdueled Stafford, who was the number 1 pick in his class, but he held his own. He made no mistakes, and the 49ers won that game. In week 3, he has a 2-touchdown game and a romp over the New York Giants, who bring in Daniel Jones, who, even though he was non-functional, is a first rounder and was the second quarterback taken in his draft class. In week 4, he beats Josh Dobbs. And look, beating Josh Dobbs now is more impressive than it was in the week that he did it. Dobbs is now 2-0 with the Vikings. And oh, by the way, in that game, he completed 95% of his passes. In week 5, he completely outplays the $160 million man, Dak Prescott, with a 4-touchdown day and beats what was at the time the number 1 ranked defense in football. In week 6, he has his worst game of his career against Cleveland, and he throws his first interception. In weeks 7 and 8, he throws 2 more picks in Minnesota and then 2 more picks against Cincinnati. But all that anybody could talk about was those interceptions. Everyone missed the fact that along with those bad interceptions, Brock Purdy also in back-to-back weeks completed 70% of his passes in back-to-back weeks, along with 713 total yards from scrimmage in the air and on the ground in those 2 losses, where outside of the interceptions, he was phenomenal. Now, again, outside, it's like, you know, other than the ending, how'd you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln? You know, right. I understand. But he was phenomenal. And oh, by the way, in those 2 losses, he was outplaying the quarterback with the first guaranteed contract in NFL history. And then he was playing against the number 1 overall pick that Joe Burrow represented to the Bengals. And then in Jacksonville on Sunday, against another number 1 overall pick, Mr. Irrelevant outduels him with a 3-touchdown day and the best passer rating of his career. Brock Purdy's season is littered with successful data points. He's just kind of getting better as the year goes along, and he is beating anyone who dare be drafted in front of him or paid more than him for the most part. The guy has been remarkable. To sum up Brock Purdy's start to his career, it dwarfs and overshadows most guys who have gold jackets sitting in Canton. And it's still not good enough for some people. And I don't care about those people anymore. The opinion of what some people think Brock is or isn't doesn't matter. The statistics are bearing that the 49ers have their franchise guy. If he is this good, 17, 18 starts into his career, what's year 4 going to look like for Brock Purdy if he stays healthy and in this system? So, Larry, this guy is unbelievable. It's a Disney movie come to life.
I mean, 28 touchdowns, 9 picks is what he's done in his career and won a ton of games. I mean, this year, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks for the regular season. He's projected for the year for 28 touchdowns and 9 picks, completing 68.8% of his passes. He's been good. He's been good. He's been good a lot more than he's been bad. You know, and you just got to roll with it. It's not a straight line. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days.
Right. Progress isn't linear. It's not all hockey stick level growth. There will be ups and downs, and that's the way it goes for everyone. It's just the way it goes. There is no reset button when you throw that first pick interception in a game of Madden, which I'm sure half of his critics always do when they throw a first quarter interception. There's a guy named Teasy on your chat who says, name one team he's played that had a better roster. I'll wait. No, I'm not going to allow you to move a totally fictitious field goal that, that it doesn't matter what you think of the opponent. Every NFL opponent is an NFL opponent on the schedule, and Brock can't control that. All he can do is go out and play the team that he's playing against. That's it. That's all. That's all he can do. And the team that was playing better was the Dallas Cowboys, and they're still playing really good football. And he eviscerated them with his 4-touchdown afternoon. Like, I don't want to hear that Brock's opponents aren't good enough for you to say that he is now good enough to be this team's quarterback. Here's what he does. He goes out in games and he mostly fucks shit up against anyone who tries to beat him. That's what he does. Well, he doesn't have the big come from behind game yet. Well, it's usually because his team is pulling him out of the fourth quarter because they're so far ahead. We've seen Sam Darnold understudy more for Brock Purdy than we ever saw backups go in for Jimmy Garoppolo or anyone else. I mean, it's amazing the position he has them in week after week after week. Stop trying to come up with a fictitious scenario in your own mind that Brock needs to clear. Your mental hurdle. You're trying to be Nick Wright or Skip Bayless question. It's not a gotcha moment as much as it is a total realization that you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's too. I mean, I'm watching Nick Wright. The other, when guys like Purdy lose, it's like, oh wow, this guy's not the guy. And then when he wins, it's like, they just don't notice it. Or, Nick Wright is so far down he's already debating when he fails. Should the Niner brass be taken to task for the Trey Lance situation? It's like they've owned it. I mean, how many times do you want to say, hey? Kyle Shanahan went to the podium, and you can say Kyle Shanahan is not great at self-criticism if you want. But if you were there in the room like I was that day, that he owned that. He basically was like, hey, I blew this. I blew the Trey Lance thing. I failed Trey Lance. I failed this organization. This is not a good day. This is, we're moving on, but I failed here. I mean, I don't know what else you want. You want to be publicly flogged? I'm not sure exactly what you need, but he's admitted failure on the Trey Lance pick. And they're going forward with Brock Purdy. And he's lucky them because he's number one in the NFL in QBR. And yesterday on the road in a gotta-have-it game, he threw 3 touchdown passes and didn't turn it over against a team that leads the NFL in takeaways. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not saying believe me, you gotta roll with it. I mean, do you believe in Brock Purdy? It's like as soon as Brock Purdy had a couple turnovers, people are just running as fast as they can to Twitter. That's what I was talking about. That's what I knew. That blah 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 blah. And it's like, hey, you know what? I think Brock's pretty good. Whether he wins tomorrow or loses tomorrow, whether he turns it over tomorrow or doesn't turn it over tomorrow, I think generally he's proven over the long haul that he can run this offense and he can execute this offense. And that's really what it's about. He can execute the offense and he can get the ball to his weapons. And I mean, the guy made a lot of plays yesterday, a lot of plays.
What people have to understand. Yeah. Well, I think what people have to understand is that there will be no singular afternoon of football that is a referendum on whether Kyle Shanahan or Brock Purdy is the right guy for the job. They're the right guys for the job as this team is currently built. There is no changing it to accommodate the over-panicking desires of a fan base who, again, does not know how football operates in so many different levels.
Well, people are knee-jerk. I mean, that's it. The NFL is such a compelling show that overreaction Monday around the league is a thing.
It's big business.
ESPN's got a headline, Judging the Biggest Overreactions for NFL Week 10 by Dan Graziano. It's like, this is a thing. It's not like we're like, oh, hey, Niner fans overreact. Football fans overreact because there's 17 seasons, and every week is a new season unto itself.
17 games, yeah.
Every game, yeah. And Fred Warner said it. Hey, guys, in the locker room, he's like, we're not going to get caught looking ahead anymore. We're going to take them one at a time. Now, whether that was true, whether it was fatigue, whether their opponents were just better than them, whatever. It's the ebb and flow of an NFL season. That's why even the greatest Niner teams that were super dominant, that had Joe and Steve and Pro Bowlers and All Pros everywhere you look, coaching depth that was the envy of the league, none of those teams ran the table. The greatest Niner teams of all time still lost a couple games along the way. I mean, 84 Niners were 15-1. 89 Niners, I think, were 14-2, something like that. Those are two of the best teams that ever played. So you're going to lose a couple games along the way, no matter what. So it's just the way it is.